The child's cries echoed through the narrow cabin, piercing the quiet hum of the midnight flight. Aisle lights shimmered faintly, casting soft glows on weary faces and restless passengers. Somewhere in the middle row, a man sat frozen, helpless, exhausted, and broken in ways no one could see. His son, no more than 2, sobbed uncontrollably in his arms. Each cry tore through the man's chest like a reminder of everything he had lost. And then she stood up, a young woman in a simple blue cardigan, with eyes that held more warmth than the sunrise, turned around from 2 rows ahead. Without hesitation, she walked back toward the crying child. There was no annoyance, no judgment, just quiet compassion. "May I?" she whispered gently. The man hesitated, clutching his son closer, but the desperation in his eyes surrendered before his voice did. He nodded. The woman smiled, took the little boy into her arms, and began to hum. A soft melody, tender and nostalgic, floated through the air. It wasn't loud, but the whole plane seemed to fall still. The crying slowed. The boy blinked up at her, his hiccups fading into tiny sighs as she sang a lullaby older than time itself. Passengers watched silently. Even the flight attendants paused in the aisle. The father stared in disbelief. That small act, a lullaby sung to a stranger's child, wrapped the whole plane in a fragile, golden moment of peace. Before we dive deeper into this emotional story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness, where stories of compassion and humanity remind us what truly matters in this world. When the song ended, the little boy had fallen asleep against her shoulder. The woman smiled softly and looked at the father. "He's beautiful," she whispered, her voice trembling with gentle sincerity. The man swallowed hard. "Hey, he hasn't slept through a flight since his mother passed." Her heart skipped. "I'm so sorry," she murmured. He nodded, his eyes glistening. "It's been just me and him for a year. I thought I could do this alone, but nights like this." He stopped, unable to finish the sentence. The woman didn't speak. She simply handed the sleeping child back to him with a tenderness that spoke louder than words. For the rest of the flight, she didn't glance back, didn't expect gratitude or attention. But the man couldn't stop watching her reflection in the cabin window. Her presence had brought a calmness he hadn't felt in months. When they landed in New York, the woman gathered her bag and disappeared into the crowd before he could thank her. The man, still carrying his son, searched the terminal with his eyes, but she was gone. For most people, it would have been a brief encounter, an act of kindness lost in the blur of travel. But for Ethan Cole, one of the youngest billionaires in the world, it was a turning point he didn't see coming. Ethan had built an empire of tech companies, but after losing his wife Amelia in a car accident, all the money in the world couldn't fix the silence in his home. He had stopped smiling, stopped believing in kindness, until that night on the plane. Days later, fate intervened. Ethan was attending a small community event organized by his Foundation for Underprivileged Children. Reporters flashed cameras, journalists asked questions, and board members hovered like shadows. He was tired of it all, until he heard a familiar voice singing softly to a group of kids in the corner of the hall. He froze. That song, that lullaby. She was there, kneeling beside the children, her face lit with laughter. Her name tag read, Lena Hart, volunteer music teacher. Ethan felt something stir in his chest. A memory, a feeling. He waited until the event ended, then approached her quietly. "You're the woman from the plane," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Lena turned, surprise flickering in her eyes before recognition softened her face. "You're the father." He nodded. "I never got to thank you?" She smiled gently. "You don't need to. Anyone would have done the same." "Not everyone would," he said. "Most people looked away that night. You didn't." Over the following weeks, Ethan found excuses to visit the community center again and again. Sometimes he brought toys for the children. Sometimes he just listened as Lena played the piano and sang. She had this way of turning even sadness into something beautiful. He learned that Lena wasn't wealthy, nor did she dream of fame. She had grown up in foster care, moved from home to home, and learned to comfort herself with music when no one else would. "Songs are like promises," she told him once. "They tell you that even if everything changes, something beautiful can still exist." For Ethan, who had spent his life chasing success and power, her words hit deeper than any business deal ever could. He started smiling again, at his son, at the sunrise, at life itself. His little boy Liam began calling Lena Auntie Lenny. Alina never treated Ethan like a billionaire. She treated him like a man, a grieving father, trying to heal, and for the first time since losing Amelia he felt truly seen. One winter evening, the city was wrapped in snow. The community center's roof leaked, and Lena was trying to cover it with a tarp when Ethan showed up unannounced. "You should have called me," he said, shaking his head with a half-smile. "You're out here in the cold fixing roofs. Some of us don't have billion-dollar budgets," she teased, breath fogging in the air. He laughed, real, unguarded laugh, and stepped closer. "Then maybe you should let me help." But before she could reply, he handed her a small envelope. Inside was a deed to a newly renovated music center, with her name on it. Lena gasped. "Ethan, I can't accept this." "It's not charity," he said softly. "It's gratitude. You helped me remember how to live. Let me help you keep spreading that light." Her eyes welled up. "You don't owe me anything, I know," he said. "But I want to." That night they stood under falling snow, silent but connected, two souls who had found something unexpected in each other's brokenness. Months passed. The New Heart Music and Hope Center opened its doors, giving hundreds of kids a place to dream. Ethan and Lena grew closer, not through grand gestures, but through quiet moments. Laughter over spilled coffee, bedtime stories for Liam, and long talks under city lights. Still, Ethan hesitated. He was terrified of losing again. But one night after a charity concert, he found himself watching Lena as she sang on stage. Her voice soared, filling the hall with the same lullaby she had once sung on that plane. Liam was in his lap, fast asleep just like that night. Ethan realized he wasn't afraid anymore. When the song ended, the audience erupted into applause, and Ethan stood, walking toward her. The world seemed to fade as he whispered, "You saved my son that night, but you saved me too." Lena's eyes glimmered. "And you taught me that love doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be kind." If this story touched your heart, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. Your support helps spread stories that remind the world that compassion still exists. Years later, when people visited the Heart and Coal Foundation, they saw a picture near the entrance, a woman holding a sleeping child on a plane. Below it, a small plaque read,